Okay. Hopefully this doesn't cut out soon, but if it does, I'll just go over it. Okay, so here's the base. You'll know if sometimes Emerson uses the same base when they're making their fans, so they have if these holes are missing on the older ones, they don't have them. So if these are missing, or if there's no screws here, then it's not a capacitor one unless you take it out. Sometimes these are missing, but this is what it looks like to hold it in. You can just put a newer capacitor under here and then press it down and it'll hold it. But make sure it's not leaking. I've never had an Emerson that actually had a leaky capacitor, but if it does, use gloves. Use latex gloves. Be very careful. This has PCBs, which can cause cancer, and it's really bad. Finally got some new penetrating oil. I ran out of this stuff a lot. I've been through like 3 of those cans in like 2 years, or 4. But usually just clean this up. This is grease down here. You can also clean the capacitor, but I just did it a little bit. It's not going to matter much because I'm replacing it. You always want to replace these capacitors because they can leak over time and they have PCBs and it's just not fun. I've had a capacitor leak on me before. It's at Westinghouse. I have heard some people in the AFCA, the Antique Fan Collectors Association, they have speculated that the reason why some capacitors leak is if you haven't used it in like so long. Because I know some fans haven't run, like some of these fans haven't run in like 20 to 30 years. And this one, that's probably the case with this one. The reason why it wasn't working was because the head wire was completely cut off into the base, and it actually sparked. And that's the one thing you have to worry about. If your fan is humming and it's drawing excessive current, don't be a dumb person and leave it on. If it starts smoking, don't leave your fan on. It's gonna burn out the motor, and then you're gonna have to rewind it, and it's gonna cost you more than the fan's worth, unless it's rare. Now, also, I was talking about, if you wire this fan wrong, it'll make sure that, let me see, I have mine over here somewhere, but it's just figure out how to measure the current, or the, let me see, my goodness, I can't get it over here. But these things are like $20. Let me see, it's called a kilowatt. You figure out the amps, the watts, you just click on it, and the volts. Best thing that I've ever gotten to figure out how much, what your fan's drawing. Shoot, I don't want to break that corner. Okay. Always use that if you're gonna test a fan, and you can return it. If you're only gonna do one fan, just use it, put it back in the box, and return it. It's that simple. I find them at I'm not sure. You can find them on Amazon, I know that, but just look up kilowatt. There's different versions. I usually just get the one that I have. It's simple, it's easy, and you don't need all those different buttons. I know some places sell them for like, they're 20 bucks, so. I know Menards has them, but I got mine online. Okay, got that cleaned up. Undo one of these screws. Gotta go down more. Undo one of these screws. See how my base is really crusty? What you can do is sand that down, and then you can put some felt on it with some spray adhesive, which I'm not going to show, because I'll probably just show that in a later video if I feel like videoing it. But use spray adhesive, and then yeah, here's the capacitor. Here's the capacitor that I was talking about. This is the one that most of these fans had. It's got PCBs. If you're going to use your fan often, replace it. If you don't know anything about fans, then I guess you're okay. I'd still replace it. It's just safety precaution, because if these go out, then your fan's not going to start, and it's going to draw, or I mean it probably will start, but it might not. It's going to draw excessive current because it's made to run with this capacitor. That's the whole reason why these fans are so efficient. And you want to get the right microfarad value on it, which you can find on the if you go to the Antique Fan Collectors Association forum and you post if you have any questions about your fan. That's the best site that you can find to get your questions answered. I'll put a link in the description for it, so that way you can figure it out. But so that way you can find that out. Okay, it's all old. It's all sticky. Okay, got that done. Now, here's the annoying part. Putting it back together. Now, if you're going to keep the original capacitor like I am, I'm not going to use this fan much until I get a new capacitor. But what you do is you always put these two contacts or whatever. I don't know what it's called. Face it this way. You can face it toward the back, which is okay, but the wires get in the way here, and it's really annoying because it'll sometimes catch. Always put the capacitor this way, so that way the wires go behind it and they don't catch on there. Because it's really annoying sometimes. Okay, I gotta get my cord also, so let me pause the video and let me go get my cord. Once I get through the wiring, I'm gonna start showing more pictures just to save time on this video. This is gonna be a part 3, but just to make it easier and quicker, because it's starting to get pretty long, and I'd probably be done with this fan by now. It's just the video takes a while, takes longer, so I usually do a 1/2 inch on here. Take that off, make sure to get off all. I'm using older wire. It's still flexible, and I don't see any cracks in it because it hasn't been dry rotted at all. Well, I lied. It has. But I'm not using this fan often, so I don't really care. And I like the plug on it. So, it's kind of dry rotted. I just don't see any copper. So, just be careful. That's all I say. I would replace it, but the plug is really cool, and this wire is in decent shape. If it's all dry rotted, then obviously don't use it. And when I mean dry rotted, I mean it's all cracked up. It's all cracked, and you can see bare copper. Don't be dumb. And make sure that they aren't actually shorted together or touching together when you plug it in, because then it could short out, and then you could burn your motor out. If it is sparking, just shut off your fan. Don't leave it on. This is the dumbest thing you can do. Because then you're going to spend more time or more money having it rewound, which is probably going to cost $200 at most, or at least for these fans, because they're wired up, they're wound complicated. So just be careful with it. Jesus, knot is not working. It's kind of dry rotted. It's a little bad. Nothing terrible. Okay. Okay, so I can just. No, I'm not going to waste my crimp or my. Who am I kidding? I need to get some. I'm going to replace this cord. I don't know what I was doing. I'm going to replace this cord. I'm not using this. It's too dry rotted. Don't want to risk it. I'll probably save this for something else, but it's got a cool plug. Don't know how I'm gonna get this off. I'll get it off somehow. Let me get some better cord out. Not use some crap cord. The reason why I wasn't using this cord is because, or I'm not going to use the other cord, is because it was dry rotted, or it was really badly dry rotted, and when I was tying the knot, I could literally start to see the copper. I always hate molded plugs because you have to, either the whole cord has to be still be good for you to really be able to use it well or safely, or yeah, that's really it. Most of these Emersons had molded plugs on the end, and that's why you don't see a lot of them without the original cord. Or yeah, they don't have the original cord. Let me see. Do I have my attachment? Do this. It is. Okay. Oh, what am I doing? I'm doing it the other way. Make sure to put the put the cord in so that way the end of it is going the same direction. Just make sure to put it so that way the cord tightens or doesn't come loose once you put the tighten this nut on there. Sorry for the boring video, just trying to cover parts that are important. This stupid washer would actually do what I wanted it to do and stop going to the bottom. Leave it how it is. Got it. You can see it. Okay, now to put the capacitor on, it's pretty simple. Since it's not polarized, oh jeez, it's from the electrical tape. But since it's not polarized, if there's two wires coming out from one side, then what you have to do is you have to figure out which wire went on that side. Because if there's two wires, make sure to put those two wires together. And if there's only just one, like one on each terminal like this, then it doesn't matter how you wire it, since it's now DC. Do they really use DC? No, they can't. I don't think so. No. Yeah, they can. They can use DC capacitors. What am I talking about? I'm pretty sure. I might be wrong. Don't take my word on it, but if it's DC, then you have to wire it a certain way. Okay, where's my wire nut for this? Now, if you have a new capacitor, oh, I got them over here. If you have a new capacitor, solder and heat shrink tubing would be the way to go, but I'm not wasting my heat shrink tubing on this, since okay, so put that on there. You can get smaller wire nuts on here, but I'm just using these because that's what I have. Just twist it up. up here and line it up. And then put the screw in, and that's where I'm going to cut it. Once you get the 2 screws in, then yeah. And now I'm going to show some pictures. Okay, so now I'm going to show how I oil it. What I do is there are slots in here, which I'll get a picture of. And I usually take I bend a paper clip, and then I clean these out. I usually go around, and you always want to make sure these are cleaned out if you're gonna oil it, or before you do it. And then you just be careful not to scratch up the bearing surface. And usually just take out that grease, the old grease, and be careful not to yeah, just don't scratch this up, because if you do, then you messed up. I don't know if you can see it as well, but there's just like slots. Just clean them out. Doesn't have to be perfect, just take most of it. I've seen some of them where they're completely clogged out, and usually you gotta clean them out. The top isn't as bad as the bottom most of the time. You still gotta clean them out. Some people forget to do this, and it's really the most important part. And you also clean out the inside of here. I sometimes don't do that, which I probably should, because it's very important. I don't know why I don't, but... And then what you do is you just take a paper towel and clean this off. When you first go... Oh, drop paper clip. When you first go through it, make sure you can spray some of this penetrant oil on it, and then wipe it off. But that's what I do. Then you clean that off and you blow out the motor. What you can do is wipe that off and take the bullet back off and get this down. And now what you do is you put this through. Take this off, and then you can clean it. And then what I do is I put oil right here and in here, so that way it'll glide freely when you. And this is the worm gear on the back. You also have to clean this off. When you re-grease it, you would re-grease your re-grease the gearbox already. So I'll have a video of it soon, how to take it apart. But for now, it should be in the description once I get it. But for now it'll be blank, because I'll do this one soon. Okay, so put some oil in here, and then put some oil on here. Oh, it's too much. You have to clean that out now, and then you put some on here, and you push this back through. Twist it a little bit. Now I have to clean this out. Okay. So now once you get it through, once you clean, some of these fans won't have them, but most of these do. Just clean this off a little bit, and then you put it back through. Oh yeah. Also make sure to hold it behind, and then line it up. See, if you go sideways, it won't go. So you have to line it up, and then you get it in there. And now it's all good. And then you put, once you have all new grease in the gearbox. This is not new. I'm going to put a little bit of oil in here just for the time being, just because it's going to be a little bit until I fix it. That's not what you want to do. That's not permanent, and it's not how you want to leave it. But I'm just doing it just for the time being, because I'm making this YouTube video, and I ran out of time. pretty close to when I should be in bed. And you line it up, and then you put the screws back in, which I can find in here. Got 1, 2, and 3. They're kind of large screws. Oh. They're this big. You can kind of see. They got large heads on the front of it, so line these up, put them through. Oh yeah, there's also a way to get the blade off where you put screw through here. It would have to be only on the left side. I don't do that method, but on these they have holes in the rotor, or a hole in the rotor to do that. But on some of them they don't, and you would have to do the. And even, I know on the 50s ones, I came up with a way where you don't have to use a screwdriver for it, or you don't have to use a screw, which is which is a lot easier, because you don't want to bend the screw when you're doing it, because you have to have like a certain strength screw for when you do it, and you don't want it to bend. I've had one bend inside, and it hit the windings, but it didn't. I got really lucky that it didn't actually break, or it didn't short any of the windings out, so that's all good. Got everything set up. Okay, now for oiling. Let me go get the rotor and show you how I oil them. Let me go get one of my. Let me get the rotor. I have it on the ground over here. Oh. Okay, here it is, and I have the fiber washers and the locking thing on the ground. Here's the rotor. Let me put this somewhere safe. Let me see. Okay. Clean off these fiber washers when you get them, because they're kind of dirty. One of them goes in the back. Always make sure there's at least one that's in the back. And how to figure out how many fiber washers you need. Usually there's enough. But how to figure out how many fiber washers you need. Usually, I need to clean this out first. Okay. What you want to do, get a clean paper towel, and let me go get some more paper towels. Running low. Oh, guess I'm not. I didn't notice. What you want to do is, let me zoom out. Okay, what you want to do is twist this up, and then you want to poke it through the rotor until you get to the end. Twist it a little bit, hold it on, pull it through, and then spin it. And that should get all that old oil out, that old gunk in there. And you do that a little bit. I know you can put some degreaser in there, but this is just the simplest way that I do it. It's really easy, and I don't have that much. You can put some of this in there and clean it out with this, but this is what I just do this just to get the oil out, just for the time being. And then you catch it on the bottom, and then make sure to clean your rotor so that way there's no oil on it, because you don't want oil on the rotor. Clean it off. Oh yeah, and also make sure there's one of these leather washers still on here, because that's what holds the oil from getting all on the fan. If this is gone, then you have to order one online. I'm not sure where you can get them, but if you go to the AFCA, somebody can tell you how to get them, or the Antique Fan Collectors Association. And yeah, that's how you clean it. See how there's don't drill a new hole in the rotor. Leave the one how it was from the factory, because if you drill a hole in the rotor, then it could be off center or off balance, and then there's no way to balance it. So just be careful with that. Don't even think about drilling anything into the fan. Don't even drill anything yeah. So once you got that all cleaned out, which they have grooves in there, but there's really no way to get into it unless you let it soak in like carb cleaner, which you have to, and other stuff, but I don't bother with that. So now what I do is I put some oil in here. Let me go actually get my can of oil that I actually use. I use Zoom Spout. This one ran out. Zoom Spout. It's for non-gumming turbine oil. Use on electric motor bearings. It's very important. Don't use, if you're gonna use Zoom Spout in the blue can of 3-in-1. It's very important. You don't want to use the red or whatever other can, because then it's gonna gum up your bearings because it's got detergents. Detergents is what you don't want. You don't want detergent. You want non-detergent oil, because that gums up the bearing and it's more for cleaning rather than actually oiling. And that's what happens when the fan seizes up sometimes. It's because people used the wrong type of oil, which is not good. And that's why I use this type of oil. Okay, I swear I had a whole ton of it. Oh, I got some over here. Nope. There they are. Got this one. This is a different brand, but it's the same one. Yep. Turbine oil. They updated over time, so what I do is I put it in the rotor. Which I do is I put some oil all the way from the back, and then I put some oil, and I just slowly put more oil through until I get to the other side. And then what I do is I rotate it slowly, so that way it covers the whole surface with oil. Wipe off the excess. I don't know if you can see that, but there's oil in there, and you can put more. So that way it covers the whole surface. And you just rotate it so it covers all, even the end. That's what you want. And even the front. And once it covers everything in there, you can set this one down. Don't let it sit for too long, or the oil will not stay, or will not be coated. And what you do is you put some oil over here, along here. And then you coat the whole thing. Just put it all over this the spindle. Make sure your hands are clean when you do this. Decently clean. Try to get all that crap out. I usually put more on it, but you don't have to put as much as I am. I'm just doing it so it's completely covering it. I don't have to worry. But always make sure to put oil if you're putting it back together. Some people don't do that, and that's very bad, because I know you can let the oil work itself into it, but then if you run it dry, then it's just not smart. I know sometimes I put a little too much oil, but I just put some more on here, let it drip over. And then what I do is I put my rotor on, and then some will soak through. Usually just make sure it doesn't get onto the winding. It won't hurt it, it's not as good as it could be, but then you twist it a little bit. Oh yeah, and make sure to put, and then once you get that on, put how many fiber washers you had, or how many fiber washers it was supposed to have, and then you get this thing, or you get this nut on there. I don't know how, I forget how it unscrews, But you get this on there, you twist it on there. Before you even run it, don't even think about running it without this on there. And then you can usually just take a wrench and then tighten it. Don't over tighten it, just tighten it enough where it's not going to come loose. It's probably a lot more clay than I wanted. I think I have some fiber washers that'll work. They might be too thick. Okay, so counterclockwise to remove, or to take it off, and then clockwise to tighten. Let's see, do I have ones that are not as thick? Okay, that one's not as thick. Let's see. Will this be too much? Okay, that's perfect. It's just what I need. And then you can put some oil on the fiber washer to reduce tension. It's perfectly good. Okay. And now you have to test it briefly. Just test it really briefly when you do this, because oil will shoot out everywhere, and just make sure it's not aimed toward anything that it can shoot oil out everywhere. So just run it for like a second, see if it actually runs, and then once you get that, then you can put the blade on. Okay, so now I'm going to start doing pictures, but I will do a video of how to get the blade back on and everything. Okay, so now I'm going to done with the video.